Welcome to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Today on our Clone Wars podcast, we're going to go over the episodes Dooku Captured and the Gungan General. Kev, we're going to start with Dooku Captured. You want to go over the episode for us?
Yeah, so Dooku captured. During their own attempt to kidnap Count Dooku, Anakin and Obi-Wan discover that the Sith Lord has already been captured by pirates. So this episode, I feel like I haven't been negative at all to this point. We're 11 episodes in, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, because you're easily the most negative person I know.
Yeah, I know, but there's really isn't much bad to say. But the banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin in this kind of hurt me a little bit. It was just I don't know. What I was wondering is, you know, what was the original plan for the Clone Wars series? Because I felt like it was like weirdly like uncomfortably confrontational. It was hard to because especially Obi-Wan has like the dry sense of humor, so he's always kind of sarcastic, but it kind of felt like it spilled over from sarcastic into like a little bit confrontational, like unnecessarily confrontational when they were trying to capture Dooku and then flying and then getting shot down. Um, what I was wondering is, how long was the Clone Wars series supposed to originally go? Were they conscious of like, oh, we have to sow the seeds of like conflict between the two of them, like at some point in the series, and we don't know how long this is going to go, so we're going to put it in the 11th episode in case this is only a season or two, or was this just bad dialogue?
Well, I really one of the things is that like people the biggest complaint about the show is people go like the first two seasons there's a lot of filler episodes, and I really do feel like these are filler episodes because with the dialogue we don't get any more insight into anyone's character. It's just like a story that's irrelevant to the rest of the plot of the show. We're talking about like a giant war show, and we get into all these other characters and we see these side stories of lesser known Jedi or lesser known captains, and we really get to a sense of like an overarching universe that the Jedi do care about the clones and the clones are all individual, and then this one's like your three main characters are like farting around on a planet for a couple days.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Yeah, I agree. We don't really get a lot of insight into any of the characters. Obi-Wan and Anakin get captured, and they are mean to each other, seemingly unnecessarily. I guess we kind of see a little bit, although I don't know where this is going, but they like between these two episodes, they seem more concerned um, with looking like they messed up than what their actual outcome is. So it's a little bit weird in a way because they sort of don't take any risks or anything seriously. I guess they just assume they're always going to be fine. It's a little bit like it's a little bit cartoony in that like I guess at one point Anakin is afraid for Obi-Wan, and that moment was kind of cool, and then it was like washed away by like kind of cringy dialogue again in this one. Like when the rocks fall, there's this little bit of panic from Anakin where he doesn't know where Obi-Wan is, and he yells for him, and then Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, I told you to run away." Like I don't know. I think he could have taken a second to acknowledge the fact that his Padawan clearly showed love and concern for him there. But other than that, it was just a lot of weird banter, and yeah, I mean, we don't like you said we don't learn much about them, and then Ahsoka shows up and saves them, which I mean she's always awesome. And then she's out of the two episodes, and then Count Dooku's a dick, which like we know like he's a Sith Lord. It's like in the definition.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. This was kind of a fillery episode. What's kind of interesting though is I think this is an instance where all the action happens off screen because apparently there's a comic that details the battle that leads up to Anakin getting captured that they sort of like hand wave off at the beginning of this.
Yeah, and well, and like every time, like to go into the dialogue, like every time they're talking or arguing, you see like Dooku in the background, like rolling his eyes. Like I think he's part of the audience. He's like, oh my god, you know?
Yeah, yeah, true. What I kind of wonder is, I'm assuming I didn't look this up, but I wonder if the comic came out concurrently with this, or if the comic came out before this, and then they decided to fit it into this show. I mean, I think it was a good choice because if you're just watching the show and you're not into all the different media, you don't really need an explanation of why you got captured. But probably if you read the comic, it would be interesting to know the backstory. It made me think of sort of unrelated to this. I was watching a really long video about issues with the sequel trilogy. You know, because I do like watching negative videos, even though I kind of don't want to make them. But and one of the things they pointed out was the sort of hand wave in the beginning of in the beginning of episode 7 of like, oh, now there's the First Order, like, and like it would have only taken a few lines of dialogue to explain how the First Order rose up after the Empire was destroyed, but they just don't give that to us for some reason. Versus like in this episode, it's fine. Like, I mean, okay, Anakin got captured. Like they just hand wave away the story, but we don't really need to know that story. Like it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the episode to know how he got captured or not.
Yeah, but I mean, and you know, a couple lines of dialogue would have been nice, but I, like you said, I don't need a whole episode about how he got captured because that would have been like another filler episode. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a really good choice. The amount of information they gave us. The Yeah, and then the rest of the episode. I mean, yeah, again, Dooku's sort of very overly confident. Dooku's kind of a cool character in this. You know,
Yeah.
his like meditation pose when they come to capture him. You know, he's just very. He's honestly the most Jedi like of all of them. I mean, you know,
Right.
he reminds me of oh man, I don't remember his name from the last episode. I know I can't look it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
our main Jedi Master from the last episode. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Um,
uh, crap. Yeah, I know. I
Kit
maybe,
Fisto. Oh,
yeah,
thank
Kit
God.
Fisto.
Yeah, I didn't look it up. I just finally remembered it. It was blocking it out of my head. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is like, I mean, he's a Sith Lord, but I mean, he's also he trained as a Jedi. Like he, I mean, there's the only real difference between those two is like how we see evil. You know, is he evil or is he a Sith Lord? Like we're it's written to tell that Sith are bad, but I mean, they're probably Sith that did like what they consider good things. You know, not every Sith was killing people.
what's the Stannis Baratheon quote? That the good doesn't wash out the bad, nor the bad the good.
Right. Yeah. So I
Um,
mean, like there are Jedi Knights that are like hunters killing, you know, going around trying to arrest and like kill bad guys, and you know those seem like bad Jedi. So I mean, but he is like a trained, you know, a trained Jedi or a trained Sith. So he's gonna be calm and like, and the way like throughout the entire movies that or the show, Yoda talks about Dooku. You know, he's like not a force to be reckoned with. Like he's a kind of a badass.
yeah, yeah, and we see it here again. He takes on a whole pirate squad. He is totally unconcerned, like, you know, and again, that's sort of Jedi calmness, you know, that he maybe doesn't have a total plan. You know, we don't see, like, I feel like in some of the other episodes we see him as this total mastermind when in more of the Grievous episodes where he's in the background where he's planning and scheming. Here, I don't think he really has a plan. He just knows it's going to work out. He's just confident that things are going to be fine and doesn't panic. And because he doesn't panic, he escapes. You know, everything is fine. And
Yeah,
now and
well,
those pirates are screwed.
he it's like Julius Caesar, like the story where Julius Caesar was captured by pirates, and they wanted like 100 gold or something like that, and he's like, "Do you know who I am? You better ask for 1,000 gold." It's like sort of the same lines as that. Like he's like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, kind of was. I mean, so Dooku's the best character in this episode.
Easily.
The sort of side note, not on Star Wars related. I posted that Stannis Baratheon quote like a couple months ago as sort of a way, because obviously if you're listening in America, there's a lot of different divides going on right now. So just as that was my sort of like everyone calm down, like, hey, there's good and there's bad in all people. So before we judge anyone, that Stannis Baratheon quote, and then the first comment on my Facebook was like, oh, you take your moral compass from someone that burned their daughter, which he did not in the book. That is definitely not going to happen in the book.
There's good and bad.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah, I think that's kind of for this episode. I want to read the second episode description anyway, because I feel like there's enough crossover in this that we're sort of just talking about both. So,
Gung in general.
Yeah, episode 12.
I think this is our first 2-part that actually we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's like we planned this one, but we really didn't. While negotiating Count Dooku's ransom, Anakin and Obi-Wan are taken prisoner. The Jedi and Sith form an unlikely alliance in a bid to escape, with Jar Jar Binks as their only hope. I love me some Jar Jar Binks,
which is great. So just to skip forward into the episode, the best part about this is like the second time this happened, where like the clone troopers are like, the guys just send Jar Jar over there to negotiate, and they're like, well, that's like his death sentence, and they're like, don't worry about it, and then he just messes it up so bad that they get destroyed.
Yeah, I didn't really like that because you saw that clone trooper was smart enough to realize, because that's what the line he said back to him was something like he's smarter than he looks, and not to worry about it because he'll figure things out, and that's kind of what I was wondering, because it looked, and I guess this was intentional. I kind of liked it. They show him kind of slip, like, oh, he's fallen, but then it just looked very intentional that he pulled that guy out of that driver's seat. Right. So I wasn't sure how much of that was Jar Jar like falling and messing up versus how intentional that was, versus if it was a little combination of both. He like fell and then it gave him the idea, like, oh, maybe I'll just pull this guy out of the seat.
I feel like it's sort of like drunk boxing.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So overall, like, what did you think about like this episode?
This episode I like better. Still, which is really surprising. I mean, still the sort of Obi-Wan Anakin parts were not the best for most of it. I love the Jar Jar Binks being clever things, like where he he's more of an intuitive guy. So I guess he's like, in this universe, like you would say, like he's got to be a little force sensitive, right? Because he's just a very intuitive, very observant person.
There's actually a whole theory about how he's a secret Sith Lord.
Interesting.
Yeah, you got to look it up on YouTube.
We'll have to talk about that one.
There's a whole theory about it. But then once again, we see Jar Jar Binks, his bravery.
Exactly. He's brave. He's clever. He's intuitive. He's clumsy, but I mean, he sort of the good outweighs the bad with him. When he realizes that the local wildlife, know how to interact with the geyser. Although, why were they around the geyser? What were they getting from it? Like, it wasn't like a watering hole, right? They weren't drinking the acid. So what were they even doing there? But then,
man, I have no idea.
And then another where they in the previous episode where they jump off the ship with no space helmets on, but fine, we talked about that before. And then at the end of this episode, they have 2 lightsabers, even though there should only be 1 lightsaber there, because the other one clearly isn't Dooku's lightsaber that Obi-Wan's holding. That's the other continuity thing.
I mean, I feel like writers are like, we got to put him in a predicament, and then they like had no purpose other than like, here's your predicament.
Yeah. So I mean, all that stuff doesn't matter, but that's just I thought of those couple things when I was watching the episode, but yeah, I like probably the best scene of this whole episode is where right after Jar Jar knocks out the power lines, that's a great. So this is the difference. This is why these Clone Wars episodes are so good, because I mean, despite the couple like nitpicky like nonsense things I just said, like they really do care about continuity, and they really do care about the, you know, if there's a Chekhov's gun, like they're going to fire it. Like they don't leave things hanging. Like there's really time put into these episode stories. So I noticed that I actually rewinded it because I thought it was cool looking. Um, the power lines are like kind of cool looking, and they in the very beginning of this episode they show you an overview of the base, and you can see the power lines. And like I said, I actually like rewinded it back a few seconds. I wanted to see them again because they were kind of cool looking, and I wanted to see what they were. And then that becomes like a focal point of the episode when Jar Jar Binks knocks them out. So I thought that was awesome to show them in the beginning and to show them in such an obvious way and have them look so, stand out so much. Like if it was just a power line like we have on Earth, just a black power line, like you wouldn't have noticed it. But to have this pulsating pink energy was awesome, or purple. I guess I might be a little colorblind. It's unclear.
All right.
But I failed a colorblind test once, but never again. So I don't know. Maybe there was some certain thing. I don't know what it was, but so I thought that was really awesome. And then once he knocks out the power lines, and then just the back-to-back scene of then Obi-Wan, Anakin escaping and turning the tides, and then the badass close up on Count Dooku, and then like where everything sort of goes dark, and he opens the cell and he strangles that guy, and then he kills the crap out of the other guy. It was like that was an awesome resolution of that episode.
Well, Dooku, like we said, is a straight up badass. Like,
yeah,
like he and he knew he was always getting off the planet. It wasn't like a matter of when; it was a matter of how many people he's going to have to kill and then call.
Yeah, exactly. It's just he just had that. He just has it's just such clarity of mind, I guess. Where he can just stay calm, and then as soon as an opportunity presents itself, he takes advantage of it. And then can just he can just instantly see when the tides turn in his favor, and then just jumps on it. It's really a cool character trait.
Yeah, and you, like I said, you can continuously see him like roll his eyes, like he's trying to be in the other end of the prison cell. Like, Dooku, we're taking you with you, and he's like, yeah, whatever.
I was trying to figure out too. I mentioned we were talking before. Hondo Ohnaka, the pirate captain. I know that name sounded familiar, so I was looking up his like Wikipedia article, and he does. I guess he must appear in the movies because he's on Batu, and he's involved in the Resistance First Order War. So I couldn't remember, and I didn't find it yet if he actually appears in the sequel movies or if he just is mentioned in them. But I know like the name just stood out when I heard it in the episode.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy that they would still have, from the Clone Wars, other than the small children or whatever, from the Clone Wars to the First Order, that you still have a lot of the same characters. Like in movie universe time, it's like 38 years or something like that.
Well, actually, I guess it's longer than that, right? Because it's probably like 60 years, right? Because you have Anakin, so Luke and Leia weren't even born yet. They're still, I don't know how many years. I'm sure there's an exact timeline until from where we're at right now to when they're born. But then, they're what, in their 60s in the sequel. So it's a pretty long time period. But that's kind of what's nice though about having a universe like this where you have non-human characters, because we don't know anything about Ohnaka's race's lifespan. I mean, maybe that information exists, but like if you're just watching the show or watching the movies, we don't know that. I think they do maybe in the sequels mention something about the lifespan of Wookiees, but I mean it's really long. Like the lifespan of Yoda's species is really long. So even if the human characters change, you can have this great continuity with all these non-human characters. That's a pretty cool thing.
From episode 1 to The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it's 66 years.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So like the New Order, like between and Return of the Jedi is 36 years. So between Return of the Jedi, it's like 34 years or whatever. So
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because I guess Anakin's still pretty young, right? When Padme gets pregnant, or he's basically
yeah,
like a teenager, right? So I don't know. That might be all I have to say about these
says
episodes.
22, and then he dies at 45 years old.
I really is 22. I didn't think he was that old, but in my head, watching those movies, I didn't think. But I guess because we don't really see, we don't get a lot of, I guess the time in the prequel movies seems kind of crunched together a little bit. We don't have this, after watching 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, I'm sure we'll think of him aging and progressing a little more than you do during just the 3 prequel movies. So in the prequel movies, I kind of assumed he was younger than that.
Yeah. So, yep. There's like a whole. I found a graph online. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's not like Padme Amidala on this episode of 16 and Pregnant.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, she's 10 years older than him.
Yeah, that's true because she's already in power when he is still a child, right? In episode 1.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. She's 10 years older than him.
Yeah, she's rocking the cradle.
Or 6. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But I
she's
know
older.
it's like no, it's got to be 6 because I think she's 14 and he's 9 in the first movie.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I
Yeah.
mean, next week I think it's another two-parter. I'm pretty sure.
Next episode is Jedi Crash, and then Defenders of Peace.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, nope. It's definitely a two-parter.
all
So
right, nice.
that's good. So everyone has to look forward to another two-parter that's in the same episode. So you know, have anything else to say about this episode?
That's all I got. It wasn't like you said; these were a little fillery, so we don't have a lot. I feel like we try to find the overarching themes and stuff, and I feel like there wasn't much in these. It was
Yeah.
more just some cool moments, a few character development things. Um,
And
that's
I
about
feel
it.
like the next two episodes are kind of filler episodes. It's like 90% filler, and then like 10% like it 10% of kind of a story. Like to bring up Stannis again, the farmers only care about a summer that never ends.
That's not status. You said this before. It's Jorah Mormont.
Yeah. Oh, that was Jorah Mormont. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he
That's
says it
Stannis.
in the first season when they're talking about when they're talking when basically Viserys is saying how the people of Westeros are like waiting for him to come back, and Jorah's like, yeah, they don't really like no one's thought about you in years, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, um, So for Kev, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to this week's Whole Week Costa. You can check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcast. So have a good weekend or day whenever you listen.